Welcome back. This is the Father's Proxy, where we are, Row XY. We're your hosts. I'm Brian. This is Jamie Z. And today we have a very special guest. Our friend Joe Gentry has joined us. He is going to be doing his testimony. The last time you were here, Joe, your testimony was the footage and everything was corrupted, but this time we're going to make it work.
All right, part two.
Part two. That's technically part one. So, for you guys that haven't heard it, it's a good story. So, first, Joe, let's talk a little bit about you. Where are you from?
I'm from Bonham.
You're from Bonham?
Grew up here in Bonham.
And what do you do for work, Joe?
Right now, I'm a police officer at Prosper ISD Police Department.
What did you
I
do
work
before?
at a school. Before that, my first job was General Cable. I worked there 10 years right out of high school. Worked there 10 years, the plant closed down, and actually me and Pastor Cody both went to work for the same place once it closed down. He wanted to go into fire department, I wanted to be a police officer. We didn't want to do what we did, which was basically a maintenance man for Ector School. We want to do that for all of our lives. So he signed up one day, and I signed up right behind him, and he always tried to talk me into becoming a fireman. I wish I should have listened to him. But no, I enjoy being a police officer. But graduated the academy, went to work for the sheriff's office for 3 years. A year and a half I worked on the streets out in the county, and then I went and was full-time bailiff for the 336 District Court, and enjoyed that, but it was up there with women all the time. There wasn't no men around. I didn't have any camaraderie, so I got on at Bonham PD. Decided to get back on the streets. Worked my way up to sergeant on the patrol, and then I worked there 15 years, and the last 7 of it I was a detective for the city of Bonham. And about 2.5 years ago I went to work for Prosper ISD PD, and that was a godsend. I mean, it's a blessing. When I was a detective for 7 years, it seems like I always got the sex crimes on kids, and now I get to see the good parts of kids. You know what I'm saying? I get to high-five the students and not hear about the nightmares that
I can imagine that was pretty rough.
Yeah.
When did you actually give your life to Jesus?
I was 17.
17 years old.
Family.
That's time to do it.
Yeah.
Or, well, anytime. The
Family
younger
was,
the better, right?
Yeah. Family was mostly CEOs and Christmas, Easter only when I was little. And met my wife, and her family went to church every Sunday. Every time the doors were open, they went. And that was the church, a little small church just west of here. And we ended up, her brother become a preacher, and while he was in college, he led me to the Lord in her room when I was 17.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then, as far as 7th and Main, how long have you been coming to 7th and Main? What got you involved?
I'm gonna say I've been at 7th and Main probably about 4 to 5 years. I don't know the exact, but
Yeah.
But we was at a small church in, well, I'll just say it's Ector, and some things kind of happened at the church and happened in my life, and we decided to come over here to 7th and Main.
There you go. Well, we're happy to have you here at 7th and Main, and we're happy that you're here today. So, with that, Joe, we're going to turn it over to you, and you give us your testimony.
Well, that little thing that happened over when we was in Ector, one thing that really, well, combination of everything. Between my work, it seems like all I cared about was trying to advance in work, and I did get up to sergeant pretty quick.
Climb the ladder.
Yes, climb the corporate ladder. My goal was to make maybe a captain, not chief, anything like that, but maybe a captain or something with a little least responsibility. You know what I'm saying? And then probably about 10 years into our marriage, my wife and our marriage, there was a little hiccup, and I wasn't a family man. I was more concerned about work. It's supposed to be God, family, and then work. And I was putting work above God and family. At the time we was going to Ector, I was a deacon there, was going, regularly every Sunday, and but once I got in law enforcement, it kind of That's kind of when I, and miss a Sunday here, miss a Sunday there.
It started fizzling out.
Yes, and
so-
same way with family.
Right.
All I cared about was working. Night shift was pretty hard. When I first started out, I was
You
a
barely
sergeant.
get to see your family.
Yes.
I can
So
speak from experience.
I'm coming in, going to sleep. They're leaving, going to school, and going to work. So, but yeah, it rolled around probably about 10 years. About 10 years of our marriage. There was a guy at the church that unannounced to me was, talking to my wife. And to kind of give you a backstory on that is he was going to the church, and then he started his own car lot here in Bonham, and somehow he did some kind of fraud. That was before I got into, right when I was getting into
You
law
didn't-
enforcement.
Yeah,
I
catch him or anything.
No, I wasn't the one that called it. This was back
Thank
when
God, because
And so he ended up getting a sentence, and he went down for, I think, for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And so, of course, he got out. But prior to that, when he was going through his hard time, we helped him out. Everybody in the church family. That's how church is.
Yeah.
Somebody having a hard time, you help
you
them.
come together.
You come together. So, but long story short, got on it at Bonham PD and was working my way up, and he was emailing my wife, and I didn't know it. But I was working nights. I was working, midnights. So something major, life-changing happened in her life, and she was too scared to come to me to tell me about it because she thought I would be mad, And I wish she would have came, but she didn't. And of course, he started emailing at the same time, and she confided in him, kind of thing. For some reason, I was home during the day. It was just me and the girls, and I'm cleaning. I'm cleaning the house, and all of a sudden I hear at the door. My oldest daughter at the time, she was maybe about 10 years old. She goes out and opens the curtain. Oh, what's she doing here? And I didn't know who it was. So I opened the door, and it was that wife from church. And she told me, I think your wife and my husband are together somewhere. Well, I was floored because I didn't know anything about it. You know what I'm saying? So my life just went down the tubes right then.
Just took a
Yes,
360.
and I tried calling. She wouldn't answer. And I thought, oh, what is going on? And then I kind of was talking to my girls, and like, they've been talking, and when a 10-year-old tells you that. So I didn't know what was going on. So she just wouldn't answer. So I just kind of lost it. You know what I mean? And so I took my girls to my father-in-law's, and I was going to go out and try to find them. The last place I knew he lived. And I ended up taking my weapon with me. I thought, well, I was going to do something whenever I found him, not her. I wasn't going to harm myself or her, but I was going to do something to him when I found him. And so, luckily, I ended up, I was so mad, and my truck had a weak water pump. I ended up blowing the water pump, and the truck got hot, on the side of the road. And
So
I'm like,
God
oh,
stopped you.
God stopped me, and I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
And but lo and behold, somebody that I had arrested prior, and that said he didn't like me, and I had some dealings with him on the street. He's the one that pulled over and helped me while I was walking, and he gave me a ride, and I told him, take me to my father-in-law's. Super nice guy. And after that, the poor guy ended up getting cancer and passing away. And
But God,
yes,
mended.
but we become friends after that. What I'm
Praise
saying?
God.
And I couldn't believe it. The last time interactions I had with him, he wanted to.
I don't mean to cut you off.
Go
You
ahead.
mentioned in the first time drinking there was a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol was fueling that.
When we did have family events, I would drink. Or
Cops like to throw big
cops
parties.
like to throw big parties, and
Any professional does, I
Yes.
think, but
And I cannot drink iced tea. If you put iced tea in front of me and you continuously give it to me, I'll sit there and just drink it. And I was that same way with beer or alcohol. There was one night prior to all this happening that there was a big cop party at one of the officers' house. And I ended up drinking till I passed out. And
That's adding fuel to the fire.
correct, of the marriage.
That's literally, the alcohol is not only like you pushing her away and work is pushing her away, the alcohol is literally shoving her out the door.
Right. You know, and then, you know, my kids were there, and they ended up seeing that, you know, and it really, my oldest daughter, she, you know, she don't like it when I drink. She don't like alcohol at all. You know, and she'll tell me, you know, she remembers that night. And then they had to load my big butt up and take me home, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting there passed out in a chair and threw up, and all the other guys were writing on my body with a, you know, with a...
To them it was funny, but to your
Yes.
family it was detrimental.
It was detrimental, yes. And then afterwards, you know, cops work a lot of security with alcohol. You know, I did a lot of weddings and quinceañeras and stuff like that. And then at the end of the night, it's like, hey, we got all this leftover beer or whatnot, you know, take it home. So
Don't mind, I do.
yeah, you know, I don't have to pay
Free's
for it.
my favorite flavor.
I never had to walk into a beer joint
Yeah.
or go to the cooler at Quincy and get a case
It was
of beer.
like the devil was just
Yes.
here, take it.
Yep, take it. And, you know, and I would take it. And again, my daughter, I caught her one day. I think she was.
You got her a BB gun
I got
for
her a
Christmas.
BB gun for Christmas, and she took the 6-pack that I had and took it outside and was shooting them with the BB gun. You know, and I realized, man, I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how I ended up, you know, not drinking. But back to my story about that day of, you know, when I was trying to find this guy and my wife, I ended up like getting drunk again that night. It's kind of a godsend. I mean, I know that sounds bad, you know, I don't think God would get somebody drunk, but if it hadn't, what would have happened? So
You probably wouldn't be here.
Yes, I tried to go find my sergeant to let him know, hey, I ain't gonna be at work. You know, that was an off day, so he was working security somewhere. And I found him, and he's like, well, I'll just leave here, which he was just, you know, he was just sitting at a car lot making sure people don't steal tailgate, stuff like that out of the car lot. So he ended up taking me, you know, we ended up going to Denison and getting a 30-pack, and I think I drank 25 of the, you know, of the 30, and I wake up the next morning, passed out, you know, wake up on his couch, you know, because it's a good thing, because what would have happened if, you know, I ended up telling him the whole story, and that's when he's like, oh, let's go leave here and go get something to drink. So, and then of course the next day, I felt bad. Of course I hangover, and you know, still, where's my wife? Can't find my wife, so I don't know what to do. She still wasn't answering. So I ended up calling Cody, you know, and telling him about it. At that time, he had just started here, so he was actually living at the parsonage. That's back when 7th and Main still had a parsonage. And he's like, come over to the house, we'll talk. And it was kind of late at night, and he still invited me and, you know, want me to come. I ended up sleeping on his couch that night in his study at the parsonage. And then the next day, you know, I ended up finding my wife, but I wasn't the type I wanted to keep everything going, and, you know, she wanted a divorce. But she said nothing never happened with this guy. You know, that, you know, she was just talking to him. You know, he paid attention to her, you know, stuff like that. She swore, you know, she says that there wasn't anything sexual or anything like that. But I still think in that guy's mind it was. Because after the fact, when we got back together, and we were talking to other people at the church at Hector Baptist, there was 4 other women that he had mysteriously emailed. You know, he was just going down, and Kathy kind of took the bait kind of thing is what it sounded like. You know, there was another woman that said, yeah, she talked to him for a little bit. But I mean, there's
Sounds like you started at the top of the church directory.
yes,
Just
exactly. You know, when
He kind of went down the
and
pipeline to
he
see
went
who will answer.
This is just me thinking, I don't know
Yeah,
for certain. And this guy's long gone. I mean, he's not in this area anymore. But we had at Hector Baptist, you took family photos, and it was in the directory.
Mhm.
And he got to take one of the directories to prison with him. You know, that was okay media or whatnot, or, you know. And that's what I kind of think he was just doing this while he was You know, that's just me thinking.
Yeah.
While he was sitting in his cell or sitting in his bunk, you know, that's all he had to look at was, you know, something like that. But that might not be the case, that's just what I think.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
But still.
Yeah, but of course we ended up getting back together, and she told me what happened in her life that she was too scared to say, and I didn't get mad. You know, like we were talking about during Sunday school, you know, Adam and Eve. You know, Adam's the one that made the sin. You know, he made the first sin by not
Intervening and
with
pointing back to the Father.
right.
Yeah.
You know, they plow and sword.
It's kind of like the Proverbs. They leaned on their own understanding. They didn't even go to his.
Right.
You know.
That was me, you know. She thought, you know, I'd be upset, and you know, and I would. I don't think I would have got upset about what happened, but we ended up going to a counselor. You know, it wasn't a Christian counselor; it was a free counsel over in Grayson County, and that woman just looked me in the face and said, "Yeah, you got to be that way. You're a cop. All cops are mean." And that kind of way, I thought, man, we can't be going to a counselor like this. But then I kind of realized, yes, it was. You know, what I did as a law enforcement officer, I was also taking home.
You were taking work when you got home.
Yes,
You were taking,
yes.
instead of leaving work at
Like
work, you
if
were
I
taking work home.
told my daughter, hey, go wash the dishes. No, you're going to go wash the dish. You know.
Yeah.
There's
The
not-
authoritative
Yeah.
was
Yes,
present.
yes, yeah. So it kind of opened my eyes, and I ended up repenting, and I forgave her. But the hardest one part was trying to forgive him for what he tried to do. But once I forgave him and I repented, and the Lord just continued, blessed our marriage, blessed us. I mean, we're doing great. You know what I'm saying? We started coming here to 7th and Main afterwards. We're here every Sunday. You know, I teach them
And he
kids.
blessed you with 3 beautiful little girls
Yes.
that.
Well, it's going to get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard being a detective. You know, I did work my way up to detective. And like I said before, I always got the crimes against children cases, it seemed like. And it was always those tough ones. And, you know, I could sit here and tell you all kinds of stories of what people do to kids, and you just, I mean, you won't believe
And you
it.
mentioned that it was hard trying to go, oh, she shouldn't have done that. You know, you're kind of siding with the criminal when
Yes.
and inside your mind
You
and heart,
you gotta get in their mind and picture what they're seeing.
and get the confessions
Yes,
and get what
like
they
when
did.
that little 8-year-old girl comes in there with nothing but a, you know, wrapped in a towel after getting out of the shower, and that turns some pervert on, you know what I'm saying? And you've gotta, you know, put your hand on them and say, yes, I mean, when she walked in there with that towel, I bet that did excite you, and I understand that, you know. You kinda gotta see
Side with
Get in
what
that
their world's
sick
like.
creep level
Yes,
and yeah.
yes. And, you know, that kind of eats at you. You know, you bigger places like Dallas PD or Fort Worth PD, you know, they don't stay that long doing sex crimes on kids. They move them probably about every 2 to 5 years, you know, because it'll burn you out. I mean, pretty quick. I mean, when you're walking into Walmart and you see people that, you know, it really hurts me is, you know, I still see these kids, and then I remember what those kids went through. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, there was at one time, one of the mothers of one of the kids, the kid didn't come, but she kind of sat, you know, 2 rows behind me, but she came up to me after service, and I just want to thank you, because that guy ended up taking a plea deal, you know, and she told me, you know, I want to tell you thank you for what you did for, you know, my baby girl. But that's the good part. And so that's why I say it's a blessing that the Lord led me to school resource officer now for Prosper, because now I get to see the good part of kids. I get to give them high fives. I get to, you know, encourage
Watch them grow.
watch them
and
grow.
watch
They
them
come up,
excel.
Officer Gentry, when they make 100 on something, they want to tell me about it. So, yes, I get to see the good parts of kids.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing. So, but that, you know, that's how the Lord blessed me. That's how I feel. And plus, you know, I'm making more money. I'm happier. I'm not worried about climbing that corporate ladder anymore. I'm happy where I'm at. and it's awesome. I mean, the Lord's blessed me.
You're not sitting there, I need more, I need to do more, work harder, work harder.
But at the same time that I accepted that job at Prosper is the same time that found out about these 3 little girls. And my oldest daughter now, she works for the school system, and she knew about these 3 girls being homeless. And then I knew the parents, and I knew that they were narcotics users. And so we ended up, I didn't want them being, because the majority of all those cases I work revolved around narcotics somewhere. And one of the cases, I remember this mom let these 2 boys go with another guy. She pawned them off on him so she could go out and get high and sell her stuff. And then, you know, they ended up getting abused. You know, when you get a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and they know something about water torture, they got water tortured, basically. In a hotel room, you know, right here in the city. And they don't know about that. 5-year-old don't know anything about Chinese water torture.
They shouldn't know anything about that.
No.
Like waterboarding and whatnot.
Yeah, waterboarding, yes.
And to know that these little ones are robbed of their innocence.
Yeah.
And
And come to find out, this guy thought he was going to get something from that woman for watching the kids, if you know what I mean. You know, and not, you know what I'm talking about. He thought he was going to get sex for watching the kids.
absolutely.
And she didn't come back for like 2 or 3 days because she went off on a vendor, and he kept them for 2 or 3 days, and they were little hellions. I mean, they tore up the, you know, I had to interview everybody, and I found out who was, you know, beside them at the hotel room.
Who all was involved.
Yes, and who was all involved, and they're like, yeah, those kids were everywhere. I don't see how that guy didn't, but he just lost his cool, you know, and he ended up torturing these 2 little boys. And, you know, I didn't want that happening to these girls. And so we adopted them. I think this is our 2nd year to have them. So they've been with us, and they're going to school with me and Prosper, and they're prospering, doing awesome,
There
and,
you go.
and everything.
One thing I did mention that these 3 littles showed you that where you messed up with your elders.
Yes, yes, yeah. I messed up with my oldest ones whenever, mainly the alcohol, you know, and then, I don't know how to put it in words, but they understand, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, they both come here, both my biological daughters come here also. And
Wonderful girls.
Wonderful girls, yes. They know where Daddy did wrong. And now I'm trying to make it right. You know, I still pick on them a little bit.
But you got
I'm less authority. I don't show.
Yeah.
I show less authority.
But it's more of a loving authority,
yes.
right? Instead of a do this, demanding this is what you do.
Yeah.
It's more out of love.
But and you know, I was also raised that way.
Yeah.
You got your butt whooped when you didn't do nothing right, or you didn't do your chores. That's different. You know.
I was raised by my grandparents, so I know exactly what you're
So it was a
talking
little bit of that, and then also the cop attitude at home.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been through some cop.
Like no nonsense.
No
here,
nonsense,
here's
yes,
what we're gonna
yes.
do.
You know, I kind of humble myself now.
Yeah.
You know, I slow down a little bit
Yeah.
before I get
Well,
off
when
at
you think
anger.
about it, you're around so many people's behaviors and their actions and their ways.
Yes.
You know, and that kind of plays away in when you take it home, you look for stuff.
Yes.
Like you know when a
I
person's
know,
lying.
yes.
You know like the cues, the symbols, everything.
Person
You know
looks
it's
to the left, looks to the right, it means things,
Yeah.
you know. They look up, they're thinking.
and then your mind gets to wandering and going to where it's like, okay, what are they hiding?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Joe, let me ask, when you were going to Ector Baptist before really all this stuff kind of happened with your wife and everything, what was your walk like with Jesus at that point?
At that point,
Because
It
were
was
you in the
awesome.
Word? Were you in the Word
we
every
were in
day?
the Word. Cody's father-in-law, which is Christina's father,
Harry.
Christina's mom and her dad, very good, godly people, and he kind of took me under his wing. And then when Christina's mom passed away, which I was a deacon at Ector, and he was the head of the deacons. when she got sick, I ended up being like the youth minister for, the so-called youth minister. I mean, I've never been to seminary or anything like that, but I led the youth. And that was his job. He would have kids over at his house all the time, every day. I mean, there was always a
Very great guy.
Yes,
I mean,
very great guy. Very
He
knowledgeable.
showed my son how to shoot guns, and
Yes.
every time I see him, I just have nothing but a big smile for him, because he's always energetic, happy to see you. You're happy to see him. Like he's a really cool guy.
And I met him.
Yeah.
Very cool guy.
So he was very, influential to me, and but after his wife passed away, he kind of stepped down as deacon, and then he ended up going to another church, and so I was kind of left there. But I enjoyed my time at Hector. But then when I started law enforcement, that's when everything started going.
So, and then at that time in law enforcement, then what happened? Like as far as your walk, were you praying every day? Were you reading the Bible every day?
No, only time I was I was more concerned about work than anything else.
Yeah.
I didn't want to mess
Work
up.
became your idol.
Yes.
The focus shifted from Jesus, it sounds like,
Yes.
to work. Where it's not a bad thing to work. I mean, work is good. We're called to work. But when that becomes your only focus, it takes away from Jesus.
Yeah. And I don't mean to boast, but I felt like I was good at it.
Yeah.
When I was on the streets, if somebody had to open their pocket, I could talk it right, and they would give it to me. I didn't have to, now come on, and end up fighting them and getting it. I had the gift of gab, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And, when I went to domestic or something like that, the same people fighting, and, every third Saturday, they're going to be fighting again. The ones that always do it.
It's like you knew their schedule.
You knew their schedule, yes. The same house, same place, same persons.
It was almost like a marathon rerun,
Yes,
like here we go again.
I read a book called Verbal Judo, and I believe there was a passage in there, and I thought, I'm going to try that. And it ended up working. They were sitting there arguing, bickering, a husband and a wife, just going, just the usual. We'd done been to the house 6, 7, 8 times. I've been there lots of times. And all I did was sit down and grab the newspaper and started reading it on the couch. And they both stopped arguing and looked at me like, are you going to do your job?
Aren't
But
you going to
I
stop
said,
this?
I just did. Y'all just stopped arguing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Whenever y'all are done,
Yes,
we'll get back to it.
it.
You proved my point.
And so, but I enjoyed working on the streets. And I really got burned out when I became a detective.
Yeah.
But when you're working on the streets, you're with your other buddies, your other cop buddies, and you're drinking, you're cussing,
You're influenced by the world.
You're influenced by the
The
world.
folks that are around you, the closest ones, are going to influence you the most.
That's right.
And the ones you're with every day.
And now I surround myself with Christians, and if somebody's like that and they're using foul language, I'll walk away. Now, our chief was a great Christian man, the one that we had prior to me leaving. And I wish I would have listened to him a little bit more. He did give me advice, but still I stuck with my buddies, if that makes sense.
You gotta roll it off your shoulders.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but I'm going to do my way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hear
Sounds
you,
like-
but I'm going this way.
It sounds like every time God tells you, hey, don't do that, you go, I get it. I got it.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, big guy, I got this. Take the day off.
Yeah.
We don't have it. We
Yeah.
don't have it.
Yeah, I don't take the day off.
And we come back worse
Yeah.
than when we left before.
Yeah. So-
But, I mean, the thing about your story and my story that's really similar is the backsliding. Like, always been a Christian in my mind. I mean, I think it was like 13 when I was saved, but what happened is something comes along and you lose sight of Jesus and following him, and you're following the world or work or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you don't even know who you are anymore, and then you have this.
And then your whole world just falls apart.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
God, it's almost
That's like this, and you don't even know about it.
And you think, oh, I know everything, I've got it, and then it just gets taken away from you.
Yes,
And
you don't have it. You don't have it.
Yeah.
You get humbled in a way.
Oh, it's definitely a way, all right. But that's the beauty of him. He's like, look, I'm gonna take these things away that you think you want, and watch what I give you in its place. Because would you ever thought that you'd have been a prosper and had
No.
3 littles?
No, that was my worst. I did not want to go down to the Metroplex.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. Anything past Melissa's a Metroplex. But I love it. I mean, You know
Now,
what I'm saying?
didn't you say in Prosper that they do, it is a prosperous city, like they drive nice cars, like don't you always say that?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're
Do
talking.
you see the Mercedes?
Mercedes, you know, the electric, Teslas. I mean,
Oh,
and
tell me
they
you don't
got-
see those
you know,
stinking Tesla trucks. My
Yes,
gosh.
yes.
Ugh.
they are
Those
ugly.
things are hard to look at.
Hideous.
But I'm thankful the Lord put me at an elementary school, so it's K through 5. You know, I don't have to deal with the high schoolers.
Yeah.
The disrespectful ones.
Yeah. Well, not really disrespectful, it's just, you know,
You have that transition phase from going from child to adult.
Yeah.
Is what you're working into, and there's
Yeah.
a big transition there. When it happens, they learn a lot, but they challenge you a lot. I'll say that.
they do. They
I think
do.
everybody goes through that. We've all, I mean, I've been through it, I'm sure. We've all challenged an authority figure or a parent or something. Probably still do. For some of us. You gotta mess with, I mean, look, I'm gonna joke with you. If you can't take a joke, that's on you. Right?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Anyway. Well, Joe, like, thank you for sharing your story. Because
You're welcome.
your story is gonna reach someone that has the exact, like again, me, like I have one very, very similar, different things that happen, but still very similar. So your testimony is gonna reach someone, and that's the beauty of this. This is why we do these testimonies. It's because we all connect somehow. And well, I mean, we know it's happening.
Well, everybody goes through trials, and there
Yeah.
might be somebody out there that's, that's going through a marriage trial right now. You know what I'm saying? Don't give up.
No.
Make sure that you.
They may be having problems as in sources of like childbirth, and they're considering adopting. They
Yeah.
can relate to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Or just struggling to get back to God or get to God in the first place. And then you can see, like, we've all kind of had that, like, we're Christian, and then all of a sudden we fall off, and then guess what? We're back. Because God's like, I've got a hold of you. I won't ever let you go. I'm never going to let you go, but it's up to you whether you're going to let me hold on to you or not.
And you gotta listen to the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit.
You have to.
He guides, prayer and the Bible, and then make sure you're getting somewhere in a good church. There are people like that guy that
Well,
was in that church. You know
Some
what
that
I'm
aren't led by the Spirit. And
Led by
that's
the
the thing. So there's churches, I mean, even in Fannin County, that they're more worried about their agenda versus what God has
saying? Correct.
for them and what God's telling you to do, which is, we had it last Sunday, was go forth and, go bring people in and go tell them, like, that's what we're doing, that's what we're supposed to do. So, again, thank you, Joe. We appreciate your testimony. Guys, thank you for listening and watching. We really appreciate you guys. We love doing these things. Next time, if there's not a testimony, but actually, there's probably some testimonies. So, we'll be back in Genesis, but if not, there'll be testimonies. So, you guys know, just check us out and watch us. Be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe to the Father's Proxy. You can watch us on YouTube, or you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And we challenge you to share your testimonies. And I believe the next testimony we're going to have is going to be a first on the Father's Proxy.
Better get two chairs.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a husband and wife, and they're going to tell their testimony. It's pretty powerful, and it's going to be awesome. So be sure to check that out. And speaking of churches, like you said, to get plugged into, how about 7th and Main? I feel like that's a great place to get plugged into. We've got 2 services. There's a 9 a.m. and 11:15 a.m. So come see us, and if you can't see us in person, go online. The online broadcast should be fixed. We had a couple snafus there. Again, we get attacked all the way around, but we're changing. Internet providers, like, look, we're doing it all. We're trying to make sure this gets out, the message gets out, because we won't be put down, because God's word is more powerful than anything you can imagine. So it's going to get out there to you. And speaking of kiddos, Awanas is the main thing we do. It's like a year-round vacation Bible study. It'll start back when school starts back. So just be on the lookout for that. It's on Wednesday nights. Meal starts at 5:15. The Awanas starts at 5:45, ends at 7:20. Next, we have the Built to Last Marriage Conference. It's going to start September 11th, and it goes through the 12th. The sign-up is going to be a QR code, so check that out. We'll get a QR code out to you. Last year, they had the folks from
Alan and Lisa
yeah,
Robertson.
from Duck Dynasty, and then this year it's going to be Shannon and Cindy Odell. and they do a conference called Romance Uncensored, and it's we have a couple that goes to it. They won't miss it.
They go every single
They
year.
said it's one of the best conferences they've ever been to.
And this is in Arkansas, so they drive from Texas to Arkansas, and they've never missed it. They've been there consecutively 5 years.
Yeah, so it's supposedly a good one. We're already signed up, so you guys should get signed up and go check them out. Finally, it's here, everybody. The 16-13 Men's Conference. We are a video host here at 7th and Main. The speakers are going to include Joey Martin, Brian Dawkins, Nick Freitas, Brad Geary, and many more. It starts tonight, folks. Tonight, Friday, July 17th, 6 p.m. And then all day Saturday, so it'll be starting at 8:30 and it goes to 6. So there's going to be some giveaways, and it's just going to be a good time all the way around. You guys show up, it's free. Sign up or show up, and you guys are going to have a great time. I know we're going to have a great time. We're going to have food on Saturday, so breakfast and lunch, and then you guys come out and check it out. You will not be upset about it. And the Holy Spirit's going to be in the building. He's always in the building, but he's going to be a little bit more in the building, I guess.
It's going to be on fire.
It's going to be on fire. It's going to be great. So Joe's going to be speaking the whole time.
Oh, I don't know.
Kidding, just kidding. Joe's not speaking. So
If you come on Sunday, you can hear me teach.
yeah, Joe.
Speaking of Sunday, both my kids are getting baptized.
Yes.
Yes, praise
Two
God.
of my littles, or two
So
of the
you
daughters.
guys want to come to this next Sunday service?
It's gonna be very special. It's gonna be a very special weekend.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so Joe does do the men's Bible study.
Right now we're in the Titus 10.
We are in the Titus 10, and we're doing the book, and then there's a Bible study, and they're both phenomenal. I finished the book, and it's good. There's a chapter. I think it's chapter 9, if not 10. I don't remember. It's one of the two, but it's at the very end of the book, and I got fired up, man. Read that, and I'm like, ooh, you're talking about like pumped. So read the Titus 10. You will not regret that. Speaking of other books, we have Colby Rich, who is he's a youth pastor here.
He has a real man.
Buckethead fireman.
Yeah, he is a buckethead. But
That's
he's our
what I call
buckethead.
fireman.
Yeah, he's our buckethead. So, but we love Colby, and he's got a phenomenal book. It's called Lead Like a Real Man, and he does the Call to Lead podcast. And Colby will actually be at the conference on Saturday, and so he'll be speaking like in the interim and doing giveaway things like that. So come see him and get a copy of his book. It's on Amazon, so you can find that. And then, guys, again, thank you. We appreciate it. This is the Father's Proxy, where we are
Pro XY, led by the Holy Spirit.